need in Vegas, a helicopter, just hit me up, and we will make sure that VIP services. You need bottle services. You need tickets. You need seats at the 50-yard line at the Raider game. Hit me up, and we'll see
Raymond
if we can take care
Torres,
of you.
man, he is the preferred go-to guy in Vegas when it comes to chauffeur. He just named helicopters, rides, whatever your needs are required. Raymond can definitely get you there.
We will definitely take care of you. VIP services all
Man,
the way.
it's good to see you, my brother, man. So let's get into your story, man. Background, man. Where did you grow up at, brother?
So I grew up in the Los Angeles Harbor area. Of course, growing up, my father was a roofer, so he I mean, honestly, we moved from town to town to town. We ended up living in Wilmington and San Pedro back and forth, but I mostly grew up in Wilmington, California. And
Wilmington, California.
yeah, so those who know Los Angeles, those who grew up in those type of areas, if you don't have a good, solid foundation, a family that's there to support you and to lead you in the right direction, we all know what happens. You either end up going one way or the other. So, growing up in Wilmington, you got to understand that the role models there were, gang members, drug dealers, and street hoods, and so, when you're growing up in that type of environment, you follow suit. You get involved in the same thing. It's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle, man. I agree, man. Definitely, man.
Right.
So, at what age did this lifestyle actually grab you like this? Took you by the hand and just say, "We want you, Ray. Come on with us."
You know what? Honestly, growing up at age 6, I have cousins that are in gangs and stuff like that. So when you got
Hmm.
cousins and you see that, you kind of, they're like your role models. They're older cousins, and you're like, okay, yeah, I kind of like that, that type of lifestyle. But it didn't really hit me um, until I was about 16 years old. And honestly, I was more attracted to making money than I was gangbang, even though
Hmm.
it goes hand in hand out there. I mean, you're
Uh-huh.
running with you're running with your neighborhood. You're there. You're backing them up. You're doing whatever you got to do to support them. But my heart was really set on money. I
Okay.
mean,
Okay.
that's where my focus went. Even though I was
Uh-huh.
still, doing what needed to be done in the neighborhood. When you're for me, I in the back of my mind, even though I was living that lifestyle, I've always wanted to do better. I've always wanted to do better. It just like it was something in me that just said, you know what? How long is this going to last?
Uh-huh.
Can I keep doing this? But when you start, of course, growing up, not having any money, um, getting involved in selling, in my area, it was the crack epidemic. And Wilmington, Dana Strand projects, everybody had money out there. You had kids that were younger than me that had freaking lowrider cars, and they weren't even old enough to drive. What I'm saying? Had hydraulics and Dayton's, and I'm over here walking around with holes in my shoes, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm doing something wrong here. You know what I'm saying? Everybody
Uh-huh.
had nice clothes, and back then they had beepers. I mean, kids nowadays they don't even know what a beeper is. So, but beeper's a little device where you made a phone call and send you a number, and that code, with that number knew that okay, this client wants this or this whoever wants this amount of dope, and you went and you served them. You called them back and you met them. So that's what a beeper was
Uh-huh.
for those who don't know what a beeper is, the younger crowd.
So
But
would you say, Ray, that Weemos was like the doorway, the gateway to everything else that came along later?
the influence in weed moss, I mean, weed moss has been along for a long time, since the 50s. I
A
mean,
very long time.
and a very long time. So, and they got ties. Those who know the history of the weed moss gang, they got ties with I call them the politicians, our
Uh-huh.
representatives in
Hmm.
in the federal system or prison system,
The
and
give
they're
and take
well.
fellas.
You can call them that too if you want. Yeah, you can do that. And so, Wilmington has a history, and of course, there's influences. And when you're growing up in that area, and let's say if I would have grew up in a whole different neighborhood, would I have come out different? Possibly, but growing up in Wilmington, being around that type of environment, drug trafficking, gang banging, all types of different criminal activities. But we all have a choice too, though. You got to understand that. Everybody that I grew up with in that area did not go down the same road I did. So we got to understand there's a choice there's decisions that we as people, our own free will, we could either make go this way or go that way. And obviously, I did make the choices that I made in life. So and I had to deal with them. So, but the influences are definitely there, especially if you're growing
Okay.
up as a kid with no, not having much money.
So what was one of the things let's say that like really jump started you, something that you did that jump started you towards the money? Because everybody have a moment to where there's something that stands out as far as money that just pulls them all the way in.
Well, for me, it was survival. So I got kicked out on the street when I was 16 years old. So for me, it was either make it or break it. I was like, you know what? Either I, sleep on the street, or I didn't like sleeping in cars, and to me it was cold in that area in the freaking wintertime at nighttime.
Yeah, you
So
on the water, bro.
yeah, so when you sleep in a car, and your parents kick you out the house, and you're sleeping in the dog house with the dog, and you see how cold it is, you're like, man, I got to change. I got to do something different. So to me, it was either honestly, I got started, being in Wilmington, seeing the Danish Jam project, seeing the money that was flowing through there. I borrowed $20 from this girl that lived across the street, and I told her I would pay her back in a week with interest. So I got that 20, went to the local drug dealer, got a double up 20 crack, and broke it up, sold it for 40, went back and kept doubling until I started buying ounces. And then till I started buying quarter kilos. Till I started buying kilos, then of course the Mexicans got him by seeing that, okay, this kid is freaking hustling out here. Let's
Yeah,
go
he
take
got
him for
something.
let's go take him for a little drive and have a talk with them. And that's when the marriage started. It just they seen that the potential that I had to make them money and me money, and it just escalated from there. And it was
So
all
what
gravy.
that conversation looked like, Ray? Because you mentioned they took you for a drive. That conversation had to be like scary coming from a 16-year-old point of view, and at the same time, you was eager to learn what they had to say.
Actually, I wasn't. I honestly, there was no fear at all because I wanted to show
Uh-huh.
them what I can do. Like I was like,
Uh-huh.
back then you're growing up and you're. I was a little cocky back then, so I want to say that to me it was like, okay, yeah, I'm doing this. I'm sure they're recognizing like what I can do. And for me, it was like there was no. I wanted that freaking drive in that conversation. That's what I was looking for. I was
Uh-huh.
waiting for that. And when the time came, because I kept coming at them, they're like, man, this freaking kid, man. And then when I moved to Vegas, it was like it was all. I mean, it was all. They loved me. They loved me after that, and of course, I loved them because they were taking care of me, and I was taking care of them. So, um, I would invite, I would have people come from Mexico. They would come to Vegas. They would want to go to the fights, and I would have tickets for them, the ringside, sitting at the fights, at the Oscar De La Hoya fights, Julio Cesar Chavez fights, Mike Tyson fights, and of course, I had dates for them waiting too. So they were all happy. I was VIPing back then, and I wasn't even in the.
So that's what I was getting ready to say, Ray. This is nothing new to you, man.
This is nothing new to me, brother. I just made it legal now. I made it legal and legit now. So what I'm saying,
Uh-huh.
the same, most of the same services, but all legit now, and with high end clients and celebrity clients and VIP clients and people that are in the community, stand up people that are in the community. So
So by this time you had left the Weemas, right? You had left Weemas and now you're in Vegas now, right?
so I was what some people say successful drug dealer. There is no successful drug dealers, but
Uh-huh.
I would let's say call it for what it was. I mean, it was a success at a time. So after I started building up my clientele, and I started buying cars and getting a little flashy, and okay, then next Metro starts knowing you, local police, Harbor Division, they pull you over everywhere you go. Of course, somebody's telling also because I'm switching up cars and they're still pulling me over. So um, when I had one of my clients, I call them clients. I don't know what do we call them back then? crackheads, people that buy dope from us, but I call them clients. I don't know, maybe because I'm
Clients is a nice
okay.
way to put it.
So one of my clients called me up. He wanted to buy, an 8 ball, and I said, "Yeah, stop by." So he came by my house, right? And he was like a low key guy, it wasn't really. And the next day he called me up. He says, "Ray, when I went to work the next day, my boss told me stay away from the house that you were at the night before. It's a known drug dealer's house." And he goes, "And the only house I went to was yours." And like, wow. So it was a tire company in Wilmington, a well-known tire company he used to work for. Those who, I'm not going to say the name, but there's only like
Yeah.
a really, um, so he told me, they used to change the tires for Metro. He said service their vehicles. So he came. So I put two and two together. I said, "Man, they're watching me." So I grabbed all my stuff, packed up my bags, loaded up the sack, and headed to Vegas. I had a few contacts in Vegas back then. My parents had moved out there too, so I had another friend that moved out there and just started business. Moved over there, and it just escalated from even when I went to Vegas. It was like, wow. It was like it probably saved my life moving to Vegas because
Okay.
going, being in Wilmington and you're selling drugs and and then you're dealing with the freaking haters and then you're dealing with the gang banging. I mean, you got to remember
And then the
Wilmington,
gangbang is at an all-time high during this time,
man.
right?
It was all out of time. I mean, there was times I was driving down freaking PCH and next, ping, 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 ping. You're like, what the? And you don't know who's shooting at you. Like, damn, where they coming from? It's like cars rolling up on you. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, because you got to remember. Wilmington had it, Wilmington's right there in the middle. You got San Pedro, you got Harbor City, you got Long Beach, you got the East Side, you got people there, you got Gardena. I mean, Wilmington was known for, not being too
Yeah,
nice, put it that way.
Wilmas is a pretty big set though,
Yeah, it
Ray.
is. Yeah. Yeah. You got the East, you got the
And then
West, and you got the North.
so where were you?
I was on the
East
West.
or
I grew
west?
up on the
On the
West Side.
west.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was on the West Side right there by the project. So, but of course, but everybody wanted from the East to West and Harbor City, everybody wanted to come over there and sell dope because it was a freaking money pit. I seen dudes
Exactly.
over there. I seen dudes coming over there saying they were from Wilmington. Years later, seen them locked up and they're from somewhere else. I'm like, wait a minute, whoa, okay. But I'm seeing it was a money thing. They were trying to make money over there and try to
So
be low
they
key.
had to walk it how they talk,
I'm like, okay, okay, but whatever. It is what it is. I mean,
Right,
you know,
right,
now,
right. You didn't question it at this point.
man, you know what? They could do whatever they want now. When you grow older and you start getting wise and you start realizing, like, some of the stuff that we do and some of the influence we're influencing other people and we're destroying lives. With
Right,
I know sometimes you can't help where you grow up, but when you realize that we do influence people, we do, we
right,
are, someone's watching each and every one of us, and there might be somebody looking up to us, and you never
right,
know.
right.
But back then,
But let me give a shout out, man. Shout out to the Mailroom Nation. Click the notification bell, press that thumbs up, and give Ray a shout out. Drop a comment down below. So when he go back and go over this video, he'll be able to see that you guys was giving him some love. Man, shout out to the Mailroom Nation. Hood, set, click. Let's go. Okay, Ray.
that's
So
right.
my question is now, once you got into Vegas, right? Opportunities open up. I'm probably figuring that opportunities open up from everywhere because you in Vegas, you in Sin City. So ask me this: how did you come about acquiring art from Wayne Newton? Let's talk about that.
Okay, well, let me back up a little bit.
Okay, go for it.
When I came to Vegas, you know, I mean, when I drove down Las Vegas Boulevard for the first time, and I'm looking at all the casinos and the lights, and I'm like, and I'm telling my partner that I brought a partner with me, he was my right hand man, and I'm telling him, man, I could smell the money in the air. I'm like, I go Vegas there's money here. I could just smell it. I know it,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So I didn't have a whole bunch of contacts when I moved to Vegas. I had a few of them here,
Hmm.
so I had to really do being the social butterfly that I am. I had to do some networking, and I had to look around, and I had to sit down with other people that were controlling the city and kind of team up with them because I'm coming in thinking that I'm just going to do whatever I want, but it's not always that way. you got other people that are here before me that this is their town. I mean, there's a lot of desert out here too. So I mean, so
Yes.
I had to, come with the freaking with the olive branch and be like, look, hey, this is what I can do. Let's talk about this. And but I've always been the type of person that can communicate and negotiate and come to terms. And I think that's what actually gets me pretty far in life because I try to see both points of view. So eventually I started making good contacts. I started providing kilos of cocaine for the local market here, and then it just escalated from there. Then I started getting involved in chop shops. I had guys that had Porsche 911s. That's all I did was Porsche 911s. I started flipping those. I started getting involved in credit card fraud. I mean, all these people were coming at me with different things and different. I'm like, man, I mean, Vegas was like criminal
The
college for me.
hustle was real, right?
I'm like learning all these people coming at me talking about, hey, let's take me shopping at the mall. I'll get you whatever you want. You give me 50% cash, and so I'm like buying all these fancy stuff, Rolex watches. So these are other avenues that just opened up being in Vegas because you got to understand that people that are in all kinds of different criminal activities are attracted to Vegas. They come out here to try to do the credit card fraud, to try to gamble, to try to sell drugs, to try to free prostitution, to try to whatever scam artists. You got everybody coming to
Sin
Vegas.
City is at an
That's
all-time high, right?
that's trying to make money. That's what it is. So eventually, I got involved in stolen goods. Somebody, of course, you got people that are doing credit card frauds. They're buying all these stereos and leather jackets and, the malls high and stuff. And then they want to sell them on the black market. So there's a fraction, you're not paying full price when they're buying all this stuff, Nikes or whatever you want. And they come Rolex watches, whatever, legit too. They're not, I'm not taking them off their hands for full price. Of course, it's a percentage that I gotta, that I can only give them because it's stolen
Right,
and I gotta
right.
resell them. So I got involved in all these other criminal activities. Um, and then I was approached. I had some pretty good contacts. Back then, the Italians were running Vegas when I got here. So
Hmm.
I was kind of in with them. There wasn't too many. There was a few people from Mexico, but it didn't really start booming until after I got here. That's when other people started moving in, because we know who controls the market, which is Mexico. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So eventually I got involved with one of my Italian contacts, and he kind of had Vegas sold up. He was an older guy from Chicago, and he had Vegas sold up. He had an alarm company. I'm not going to mention his name or nothing back then, but he had
No need.
ties. He had ties. Oh man, I mean, he was like He was like my freaking mentor out
The
here.
Costa Nostra.
Well, I mean, I won't even go that far either. But yeah, he was Italian. Put it that
Okay,
way. So
okay, okay.
I was the only Mexican kid that was hanging out with them, right? I mean, and I'm talking about they had their hands in everything out here. I mean, the strip clubs and the alarm companies and freaking chop shops, and I mean they. So how it came about, I got a phone call because I had it's funny because being in the chop shop industry and flipping Porsche 911s, you get high end clients. So those doors started opening up in different avenues, and I had clients in different parts of the world. I had clients in Spain, and I was approached. I was approached by the Italian. He says, he goes, hey, I got some artwork I need you to get rid of. And I says, okay, well, artwork. I'm like, well, damn. I said, well, let me see what I can do. I mean,
That was
I
new
was
to you, new for
it
you,
was
right?
it was new, but I was a goal getter. So I said,
Uh-huh.
okay, I never got, and the artwork was worth millions of dollars. We're talking about Augustine Renoir, Dolly's. We're talking about over $2 million worth of stolen artwork. And then I found out that they were stolen from Wayne Newton. I was like, oh, okay. I says, okay, this is interesting. So my job was to sell it on the black market. And so I actually, um, one of the guy that used to do my Porsches, he used to do all the work on my Porsche 911s. He had big clients, so he introduced me to one of the ex-city managers of Coachella, California,
Hmm.
and he was from Mexico, but he had a lot of high-end clients too, a lot of attorneys, a lot of big clients like that. So we sat down, we had a meeting. I says, look, I need to get rid of this artwork. So he hooked me up with somebody from Spain, and they were supposed to come down. We were supposed to set a meeting, and because I wanted them sold out of the country, I didn't want them sold in Vegas because I says they have to go. I was making that rule. I want them out of the country, right? That way, they can be far gone. So we were waiting for that deal to happen. That deal was probably going to take about 2 months, but the Italians were breathing down my neck, like, "What's taking you so long? Where's our money?" And I'm like, "Wait a minute, man. This is not freaking. It's not like selling kilos. You can sell it in a freaking couple hours. I mean, come on. It's freaking stolen artwork." I'm trying to tell them, like, "Hey, relax." So they're pressuring me. So my ex city manager uh, friend ended up putting me in contact with two Colombians. And so the ex city manager was also an interpreter in court for people that had legal issues. Well, this one guy got busted, Ezekiel Garcia, which is a big drug trafficker in Mexico. He was an interpreter for him. He got busted with a vessel of cocaine coming from Colombia. These two other
Hmm.
Colombians would show up at court paying for his attorneys, and they were there. And I don't know where this guy found the freaking scruples thinking that this was okay. He went up to the Colombians. I didn't know this until after we got arrested. So he asked the two Colombians if they can get rid of some artwork. And I'm thinking, like, and now, I mean, looking back now, I'm like, this guy's got to be the biggest dummy in the whole world. So, anyways, these two Colombians, we find out, were working for the feds. So they actually set up the guy that got busted with the vessel of cocaine. They set him up, but they were there paying for his attorneys, and they were supporting him in court. And I'm like, but you don't find this out until after you get arrested. You're like, wait a minute,
Right, right,
what the
right,
hell's
right,
going
right,
on?
right.
So
What
anyways,
kind what kind of reindeer games these guys playing?
man, these guys, oh man, I felt like I was in a CIA movie. I was like, what the hell's going on here? So, so anyway, so my co-defendant ended up connecting us with the two Colombians, and then we end up we negotiating a deal with 110 pounds of cocaine, trading it for the $2 million worth of artwork, and the deal went down at the Irvine Marriott in room 1516. My arrest time was 6:05 p.m.
Details.
and they got me freaking. The thing is that I felt the whole time I felt something wasn't right. And you know what? A lot of times we don't
Hmm.
listen to our inner. I mean,
That
as
gut
soon as
feeling, right?
I pulled in the parking lot of the Marriott, I'm like, what the hell are we doing here? I mean, I'm questioning every step of the way. We enter the room. There's two freaking connecting doors on each side. I'm like, man, what's up with this? I go back. I mean, every step of the way. I'm like, wait a minute. And
There
then,
was
of
something
course,
coming into question, right?
man. So and I'm looking out the window, talking about trying to see how far the jump is. Man, we're like we're way up there. I go, that's too far to jump. I said so. So anyways, they got us on tape. They got us. They got me looking at the kilos. They got me cutting one up. They got agreeing to trade the. There was two suitcases, 25 and 25. They had a little freaking camera in the room on a freaking on the TV. They had a freaking like a little video camera. But the crazy thing about it is my Italians gave me this device before I went to Vegas. This is how cocky I was. Well, this device, you put it on, and once you turn it on, if there's any audio or video being recorded, it vibrates in your pocket to let you
Hmm.
know, get the hell out of there. They're recording you.
Hmm.
And it was as I'm packing my bags before I leave Vegas to go to Irvine to do this drug deal. I'm like, I look at it and I just throw it. I said, man, I don't need this shit. But that's how arrogant you get, how cocky. Or maybe I was just tired of being in the drug game. Maybe I was just like, you know what? Maybe this was meant for it to happen. I don't know. But so, anyways, I didn't use it, and I got arrested. Who knows what would have happened if I would have had it? Would I have walked out the room and says, no, I don't want no part of this? You never know.
Right, 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 right.
But
At
it
least
is what it is.
you would have had the ability to turn it down
Right,
without
right.
them being aware of why you turning it down.
Right. I could have just walked out and said, I don't want no part of this. And it would have been end of story. They couldn't. What are they going to arrest me for? Being in the room for kilos that they try to offer me? I, you know. So they when we accepted the kilos, of course they came in, they swooped in the side doors and they arrested us and they walked us out, and so they took us to MDCLA, and the
What
process.
year
You
was
go in.
that, Ray?
That was in 1995. That was actually May 24th, 1995, and I was 26 years old at the time. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
26 years old.
So,
So
Ray, at what year? So, what year did you wind up in Terminal Island? This is where it get interesting because we met in Terminal Island.
to
To
my
everybody in the chat room, shout out to the chat room.
shout out, shout out. So Ti, so Ti, I think we met up there in 2000. I want to say 2009, 2008, 2000. No, say, hold on.
No, it was younger than that, Ray. It
Was
was
it
about
2000?
seven,
It might have been
seven or
7.
eight.
You know what? I
Yeah.
think I got there in July of 2007.
Yes.
So I think
Because
you're
I had
right.
already been there since 2003. But when you got
Okay.
there, yeah,
Yeah.
I remember
Okay.
when you
Yeah.
got there.
Yeah. 2000. I think it was July because I had worked my way down to a camp. They shut down Nellis, and I
Uh
said,
huh.
send me to Ti. I said, send me to Ti. So they sent me to Ti. I was like, oh, okay, shit. They sent me to Ti. That was cool. And Ti is like, man, it's like being at home. Wilmington's like, I could throw a rock
Ice
and probably
cream
hit one.
socials,
Oh
ice
yeah,
cream socials, and
man. You
Warden
know what?
doing Kundalini yoga with the inmates.
Right, right. Man, you know what? Hey, you know what? Ti was real good to me. I ain't gonna lie. If you had to be somewhere, G Unit, you know what I'm saying? With
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Pelican
Yeah.
J, G Unit.
You
But
know what was interesting about Terminal Island was the tours, right? Remember the tours
oh,
used to come around and they just say the inmates are here at Terminal Island for bank robbery, white collar crimes,
notorious.
or drug dealers,
Right.
right? And they
From the
say, but the inmates are allowed to participate in all sports except for pole vaulting and swimming, man. And guys on the yard used to get, pissed off about that little
oh yeah,
dialogue right
yeah,
there.
yeah. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. You know what? I mean, you know what? But if you had to be somewhere, I mean, you know what? Ti wasn't bad, I guess. I mean, you got
It was a
coastal
college,
property.
right?
Man, you got beachfront property. I mean, hey, as quiet as it's kept, I was getting carne asada burritos sent to me. So I'm just saying, it wasn't all that bad.
No, we was all eating shrimp. There was days we had shrimp, we had crab,
Man, yeah. Oh
we had
man,
it our way. Yeah.
just hey, it was like the freaking Goodfellas movie, right? I
So
mean, you had
so
food
the
there.
chat room will know we had Mr. Picarello. He was one of the original people out of the movie Casino. He was one of the original guys that actually perpetrated that crime, Casino. And then we had Big Finger Don. He was a Italian mob, and then we also had Gambino.
Rosario Gambino.
Yes, we
Rosario
had some mob
Gambino.
guys.
So
So
me and Rosario used to play bocce and FCI Phoenix together. I
uh-huh.
remember when his daughters were little girls, and next you know, I see him walking in married. I'm like, what the hell? I must have been down a long ass time to see all that. So man, it's like, man, yeah, Rosario Gambino, one of the nicest guys you could ever meet. One of the very nice, and
Yes,
he
yes,
had nothing but Southsiders around him most of the time.
yes,
At Ti,
yes.
real nice
One
guy.
thing about the Italian guys, they were real. And then there was Phil. I don't know if you remember Phil Zangi. He was the guy that
Big,
owned Indian Motorcycle, and me and him used to sit out on the yard, and he used to
Big
say,
Phil.
"Mel, yeah, Mel, where you want to go today?" And I say, "Man, take me to Rome." Rome. He used to say, V cheese, and he began to tell me this story, you know what I mean? And people was calling him the alligator man because he had his alligator shoes and this all, you know what I mean? He was a real fascinating guy. I
Oh
mean,
man, he was a nice guy too. Yeah, you could tell he was. He had some pretty good connections. I mean, yeah. Did you? I don't know if you knew I was in the movie Casino because you brought up Casino. Did you know that?
no, I didn't know that.
So I got my Screen Actors card in 1994. They filmed it out here. So there's a scene. There's a scene where I didn't have a speaking part. I was just an extra, and I was getting into the movies thing back then. So I got
Uh-huh.
my Screen Actors Guild card in 1994. They filmed Casino in Vegas. So there's a
Right,
scene where Joe Pesci, Oscar Goodman, who is a real mob attorney out here, are coming out
right.
the Folly Federal Courtroom building. and they have me as a news media. They had sideburns on me. I have a blue sports coat looking like from the 70s, and I'm chasing them down with the camera trying to get a picture of them. So I'm gonna send you a screenshot of that. I'm gonna send you a
Okay.
screenshot of that. And actually, there's pictures on my Facebook too. If you look, if you go through some of the old pictures, it'll say casino. And after that, that's when I got arrested.
Wow.
So I got to be a part of that movie, and then after after that, that's when I ended up going to prison. So, but I still got my Screen Actors Guild card. I just finished doing a movie with Denzel. I mean, not Denzel. Wesley Snipes. They filmed a movie out here called My Magic Johnson, which is it's a
Okay.
comedy. It's a comedy. So I don't know when it's coming out. It should be coming out, but I think you might see me in that one too. So we'll see. We'll see what
Okay,
happens.
okay, okay, Ray. So now we at Terminal Island, man. Now we figuring all these things out. We get to educate ourselves. We get to really dial into who we are as individuals and what our potential is. You know, and one of the things that you and I signed up was the Choices program. Talk to
Choices,
the people about the Choices program. How
man.
how good was that Choices program? Because we got to talk to the kids.
You know what? Choices. First of all, you know what? Going into the prison system early on, I knew that I needed to make a change in my life. I says, you know what? I want more out of life than this. I don't want to end up spending the rest of my life in prison. I said, so I got to start changing now in prison, not when I get out. Not so
No, in prison.
yeah, in prison. So I said,
Likewise.
so you know, when you have a sit down with yourself and you know you do some soul searching and you realize that okay, you know what, I screwed up in life, I made some bad choices. Now how can I turn this around? What do I got to do? I don't have to end up, because we know how it all ends. If you continue, if you get out, if I was to get out and continue to do the same thing, I already know how the story ends, and I'm not trying
Yes,
to
the
go out like
result is
that.
the same.
Yeah. So so when I got to FCI Phoenix, they had a program called the Insiders Program, and you know, and a couple of homies were running in this and that, and then they invited me. And then when I got to sit in, I'm like, man, this is something I want to get involved in. But for
Hmm.
me, you know, being a high school dropout and not ever talking in front of a crowd of people, like, man, I can't do that, man. Freaking, man, I'm, you know, you're kind of shy or whatever. You know, you're not confident in yourself or
You would
whatever.
never know that you was a high school dropout, Ray, because you was
Man,
very intelligent.
well, you know what? It wasn't until I got to prison that I started. I continued my education. So I actually got my GED. I started taking college classes, started learning about real estate and so on. So I didn't realize what I was missing until I went to prison. I'm like, wow, this is what I'm missing. Like, wow, why didn't you know? But then again, you know, if your parents are not leading you in that direction, then how do you know it? If they don't know it, how can they teach you it? That's
Right.
the issue. So going back to the choices program, early on, I wanted to change lives. I wanted to work with kids. I wanted them to understand the the repercussions of making bad choices. So I says, you know what? I don't care how freaking nervous I am. I don't care if I can't speak well. I don't care. You know, I want to share from my heart what
Uh-huh.
I've been through. If I can change one life, I'm gonna do it. So eventually, of course, over the years, you get better. You start learning. And before, I used to write my speeches down, right, and be like this.
Uh-huh.
One day, one of the big homies looked at me. And he grabbed my freaking speech right before I was about to freaking walk up, and he ripped it up. He says, "Man, you don't need that, man." He goes, "It's in you. You lived it. You don't need
True.
that. Throw that away." I was like,
True.
I was shocked. I was like, and I'm about to go up and speak, right? So I said, okay, you know what, you're right. So I just, you know what, I winged it, and you know, and it was true. It was much easier because you know you live it. You're reflecting on what you've been through. You got your points where you know you made these mistakes. You're trying to connect with the kids. You're asking them questions, and you're going back and forth. And for me, after that, after I got involved in that, I'm like, man, I love this. I love what I'm doing. And then when you got the kids that are asking questions, when you could tell that they're engaged in the conversation, that they're interested, that they want to hear the story, that they, and honestly, when we're at TI, one of the kids that was, I don't know if you remember this, I'm looking at this kid that's in the audience. I'm like, man, this kid looks freaking familiar. And
Uh-huh.
he's looking at me, like smiling, like he knows me. And I'm like, man, I think I know you. I know your dad. He goes, yeah, he used to take my dad to Vegas. He used to come to our house. He used to take my dad to all the fights in Vegas. And I'm like, I go, your dad, Tony? Tony Alvarez? He goes, yeah. I go, oh. So Tony, I don't know if you know who Tony A is. He's a DJ. He was with High
Uh-huh.
C and part of that group, Scandalous Records and all that. So I used to take him,
Uh-huh.
So his son was actually in the program. He went to TI. So, and I still keep in contact with him today, the son. So,
Awesome, man.
but and the thing is that once you start wanting to change lives, once you start wanting to be that light shining in darkness instead of being the darkness, that's when you start doing things unselfishly, and you start giving back, and you start, and that's when other opportunities open up. And ever since I seen that, okay, I can make a difference even though I messed up and I made bad choices, I can still make a difference in someone's lives. And I get letters today even from inmates that tell me, man, remember we used to walk the track, and you gave me good advice, and I'm like, I don't really remember, but yeah, okay, you know what I mean? I remember walking the track, but I don't know. I just talk. I talk from the heart, you know what I'm saying? And
Absolutely.
sometimes it sticks, and sometimes you don't know if you're changing people. So,
I remember we got so dialed in, Ray, because you like myself, we spent enormous lot of time in the law library. We spend we had constructive time where we utilize our time right, and it made us much better people coming back
yeah,
out versus when we went in. You know what I mean? And I thought that was very important. Because life is about people, man. It ain't about money and things. It's about people, and you know what I mean. And I thought it was real honorable for us to be standing in front of those kids and just giving them the very worst of us, but put it in a way to the way they get it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
We was sharing with them, but at the same time we were saying, hey, you got a choice, man. You guys come in here and you get to leave. We can't leave. We're here. I'm number 207-871-112. I still remember my number. That number for some reason just won't leave my head.
Zero
And
three
I'm
three
quite
eight
sure
eight
you
dash 112.
yeah, there it is there. See? So, and there was this one kid, Ray, when I got home that came up to me. He said, hey, I was at Turner Island with you, man. And I looked at him, I said, yeah. I said, man, what are you doing? And he was telling me I'm doing really good. He said, everything you guys told me was true. And I'm glad I came up there. And he shared with me for a moment. Man, it made me feel really good to know that I actually something that we said that got to this guy, this little kid, and he changed his life. You know what I mean? And from that moment on, I've been inspired. You know what I mean? I've been in various programs. And like yourself, I'm sure, are there any programs that you're working with today?
Yeah, I'm actually but I just want to go back and just touch on
Go
something.
back. Okay, go
Words
ahead.
words can either bring death or life, and it's in the power
Hmm.
of the tongue, and that's actually biblical. And whether you believe it or not, you can speak life into somebody. You can speak hope. You can speak. That's why people share their story. People share their testimonies because you're feeding someone's spirit or someone's soul that might need it, and you might be connecting to them, and it's just through words. And it's the same thing. You can tear somebody down through words too. So I'm still working on that area. Sometimes I slip a little bit and I'll fly off
Uh-huh.
the handle, but I'll come back and I'll recognize, like, wait a minute, Ray, that wasn't the best way you could have handled this. You could have handled it in a different way. Um, but yeah, I mean, words are very powerful. Going back to, yeah, we have a program out here that I'm involved in. Matter of fact, I'll be speaking tomorrow, and we're actually going to
Okay.
be. I have my film crew out there. I'm just finishing up a documentary, um, but the program that I'm involved in Vegas is called Real Talk Youth Impact Program, and actually
Awesome.
The Las Vegas Raiders is one of our sponsors. So we
Awesome.
are, I mean, it's an awesome program. We have a lot of former inmates, community members. We got sports figures that are involved. We have guest speakers. So what we do, our program is we got kids that they're good kids and bad kids. Some of them are court ordered. They come into our system. They go through our program. They have to have at least a C average. Once they graduate from our program, we make them volunteer in the program.
Okay. Okay.
And well, we don't make them. I'm sorry, I take that. We give them a choice to volunteer. And once they graduate, we provide funding for any activities that they want, sports, whether it's dance, whether whatever, martial arts, and then then they we kind of monitor them to see how they're doing, and we do a follow up to see their progress. So and
Ray, let me say, give a moment of silence for your Raiders right now, man, because I don't think they doing too good, right?
hold on. I was at the game last night. I was at the game last night. I took my son last night, right? And man, I was
You always at the
heartbroken.
game, Ray. Every time I look up on your timeline, man, you're at the Raiders game.
Well, you know what? I'm thankful that I'm blessed. I got, and you believe it or not, I got clients that give me tickets. I didn't even pay for those tickets, so I'm very
Uh-huh.
thankful the position I'm in when when you got clients that appreciate you and that look out to you. And I was able to take my son with me, so it was Father and Son Day. So now, and even my son is 32. He's still Father and Son Day. I still try to be there and be the father figure and be there for him, because I mean, remember, I missed out all those years for him and
Ray,
my
I
two
got a
daughters.
question for you, man. Is there anything from your Wilmas days that you took from your Wilmas days that you utilize in today's time, being that you're in right minded, you're on a level that's leading to some wonderful, amazing things. Is there anything that you took from that life that prepared you for this time?
You know what? It's funny that you said that because I work with a lot of security teams. I work with a lot of high end clients. Work with a lot of um, people that are protecting some of the wealthiest people in the world. And remember, I'm an ex felon. And the first
Uh-huh.
thing they do is they do background checks on their drivers. Okay. Now, sometimes it doesn't come out till later. Sometimes it comes out ahead of time, whatever. But the experience I have growing up around gangs, um, being in prison, I think it makes you more keen to your surroundings. It makes
It
you. I
does.
can sense when danger's near, and for me, it gives me the upper hand working with high end clients, working with security teams because I know what to avoid. I know not to get boxed in when we're on a caravan. I know that okay, what areas to go in and what not to go in. I know I can spot somebody's body movement and know that okay, something's not right over here. Or just looking at somebody, I can profile them and just see that okay, wait a minute. And I think it all is because growing up in that type of environment, knowing you got to watch out. Even driving down the street in Wilmington growing up, you got to be walk. You got to watch every mirror in the car. I mean, you got to watch your rear view mirror. You got to watch it. You got to be on point everywhere. It's the same thing on a security detail when we're transporting high end clients. So people ask me, "What experience do you have?" I said, "I have real life experience." I says, "18 years in prison is it's almost like being. I mean, there's things that
So
you
you was honest about it.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, well, I was honest after the fact. They're like, well, man, you're good at what you do, but wait a minute, you got a background. Why should we hire you versus someone that doesn't have a record? And I explained the reason why. Because I have more experience. I have real life, hands-on experience, life and death situation experiences. Not something that's taught out of a textbook. I lived it, and there's a difference between
Big
learning it on a
difference.
video or being in a class. So that gives me the upper hand. And so and a lot of people get to know me. A lot of the security teams that I work with, and they're like, you know what, this guy is good at what he does. He loves what he does. He's a people person, and it just there's no questions asked after that. But there's been times where the company I was working with, Hillary Clinton came into Vegas, right? Of course, she has Secret Service all around her, and I was one of the top ones that was chosen out of the whole company. But I told them, don't submit my name because they're not going to pass me on. Secret Service is not going to clear me. And they're like, but you're the only one that's really qualified to do this. I said, okay, I'm just telling you, I'm not going to. So they submitted other drivers. They got booted out like within 20 minutes. They the whole day they didn't disqualify me, and I'm thinking like, so the office called me back. They're like, hey, they didn't disqualify you. I'm like, what? I said, man, nah, you got to be coming. Something's happening. So by the end of the
Something's
day,
happening.
I got the phone call. Nah, he's a no go. So I'm thinking they spent the whole day reading my file, probably looking through my case, and they're like,
Exactly.
so they probably were doing. They're probably just like, hey, what's something up with this guy? This guy's been through all this. So, but it's just different levels of people. And then there's been top officials that I've driven on the Air Force base here, like from United Arab Emirates, top commanders that actually did tactics with the U.S. Air Force, and I got clearance there. So it just all depends on who's with you, and and how far they want to take it, and how far they want you to be on the
Yeah,
detail.
well,
So
you got to know, man. Hillary Clinton was a candidate for president, and
right,
she was a
right,
vice president. So,
right,
yeah,
right.
you think that would go pretty high up the food chain right there,
Oh
partner.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. They
but
were
my thing is that you was very cut out for what they was asking for. But just because you done all the things you done don't make you a bad person, and that's what people
right,
get wrong about this.
right,
You know what I mean?
right,
Because
right.
some of the worst heinous crimes been committed by people who never even committed a crime.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And the thing is that we all, we make mistakes.
Hmm.
I think this is a we live in a country that embraces second chances. Um, if you continue to do it, okay. Do I say okay? Yeah, we all deserve a second chance. Do we do it? We deserve a third chance. But if we keep doing the same thing over and over, do we really deserve that many chances? I mean, I don't know. That's something that everybody has to answer for themselves. But um, I'm also in the process of restoring because I was a first time non-violent drug offender. So when you're a non-violent offender, you
You want to
can
restore your rights.
my gun rights.
Uh
So
huh.
because I get a lot of clients that want armed chauffeur. Now I have a family in Mexico that I drive. They fly me out there and I drive, and they got me permits, everything. I'm cleared for Mexico. I don't know how they did it or who they talked to or whatever, but when I'm out there, I'm armed. Here, I'm not. Okay, so I'm working on that, and I got letters from like senators and congressmen for my work working with at-risk kids. So I'm putting everything together, and I work with some of the biggest security teams from all over the world for the highest clients. I mean, big um, some rock bands, celebrities. I don't want to say their names, but if you
Yeah, no,
follow
it's
me,
not
if
necessary.
you
Yeah.
follow me on Facebook, you know some of the people that I
Yeah.
work with.
Oh, I know.
So
So Ray, I do got one question though. What's the biggest tip you ever received? If you can tell us that.
the biggest tip I ever received. Are you talking about cash wise or?
Yes, cash or any whatever, however you want to frame it.
So the biggest tip I got was $10,000 from my clients from Mexico. So the wife
Well,
flew down here to Vegas and on the husband's jet, and she was here. She wanted to go shopping for like 2 days. I think she was here for like 2.5 days.
uh-huh.
And so the husband tells me my wife's coming down, and usually she comes with security, right? She didn't come with security this time. He goes, I want you to take care of her, take her shopping, whatever she needs. So I take her, we have dinner, I take her out, she goes shopping, and then she plays baccarat. So she won $250,000 of playing baccarat, and she broke me up $10,000. I was like, wow.
Man,
I
that's
was like,
awesome, man.
man. So it's like, yeah. So it's a very nice feeling when these clients appreciate you and they tip. That says okay, they I must be doing something right if they're.
I feel, Ray, that the level of customer service that you give your clients is far superior than most because I watched you from afar, but I also know you up close. So
Right.
I can really summarize that what you give them, they're not finna get from everyone.
And you know what?
Because I know Raymond Torres.
And you know what's funny? And that's probably why I'm staying so busy out here in Vegas because we got. I mean, man, nonstop, brother. I am, and I'm thankful, I'm blessed, and there's sometimes I got to sit back and this is not all me. Even though I give thanks to God. I'm not a preacher,
Right.
but I recognize that God is
Where them
blessing me.
blessings is coming from.
God has opened up doors. I mean, I don't care how low you are in life and the things that you go through. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and I know where my blessings come from. I mean, believe me, there's been a lot of days I've prayed, and I know God answers prayers. He's not on my time, but He's always on time. So I just wanted to give Him a shout out to let Him
Right,
know that,
right,
hey,
right,
this is
right,
all
right.
because of Him. And of course, when opportunities come, you got to take advantage of the opportunities when the door opens also, and you got to do your part. But I think when you love what you do, I don't like what I do. I love what I
You
do.
love it. Uh-huh.
And and you know what? Dealing with so many different people, traveling all over the world. I mean, you see me, like I said, different artists that I work with, different celebrities that I work with, and bro, I used to have pictures of Mariah Carey and freaking Jennifer Lopez hanging in my prison locker. Turning around the back seat, they're sitting. I'm driving them. I mean, when I first drove Mariah Carey, I had to pull over and stop and say, man, God will give you the desires of your heart if you're right with Him. And I'm like, man, I had to stop and say, this is from God. I mean, because I didn't ask to drive Mariah Carey, but yeah, back then I was, of course, a lot of people are big fans of Mariah. After driving her, I don't know if I am now, but that's a whole different story. No, I'm still a big fan. I'm still a big fan of hers. I am.
I
But
understand. I understand.
it's just amazing how even though you start off on life making bad choices, how it could be turned around. And you're like, sometimes I got to pinch myself and say, man, what did I do to deserve this? But I'm thankful. So,
Hey Ray, you just knew what it take to be a good guy, and you start being that good guy. You didn't just
yeah,
talk it. You actually exemplify what a good guy is. I mean, like I say, man, we spent a few years together, man, and we know each other. We was part of that Choices program, and sometimes the kids would get defiant, but we'll show them, man. We'll walk them down, man, and kids sometimes left there crying, you know what I mean? Because
yeah,
it wasn't necessarily a scared straight, but some of the
no.
stories we gave them, was shocking to them, you know what I mean?
Man,
Because the
some of
level
those,
the level of commitment we had towards that crime world was very high, you know.
yeah, and they got to understand this, that we're doing it for them. We're doing it for
Right,
them. We're not doing it. I've been volunteering with Real Talk probably now 10 years, and I do it for them, man. I mean, I try to give back. I try to, they got to understand we're trying to save their life. We're trying to
right.
save them some some heartache and pain, because you and I know that once you're in the system, um, you know your loved ones. If you got a long time, there's most likely you're going to be losing some loved ones, whether it's your mother, your
Absolutely.
father, whether it's
Absolutely.
your siblings. I mean,
Right.
and for you to have to deal with that, um, it's heartbreaking. Somebody's right. I'm going to answer a couple. I see
No,
some notes
no,
people
no,
write.
yeah, yeah, right here. Answer this question because she don't know that you actually do write books and scripts. So
So
there's
it
one
says
right there. Can you see it?
destiny. So it says this Ray should write a movie about party cruise and well, I got a book right now that's actually out, and it's my happen to have a copy right here. Hold on.
Okay, well bring it up, right?
Let me see if I can get that. Okay, so this is my book titled The Chauffeur. I actually won the International Latino Book Award. I'm
Where
actually in the
can they
process.
find it, Ray?
So this you can get it on Amazon. So you can Google it. Raymond Torres, The Chauffeur. It should pop up on Amazon. Um, Also, I'm getting ready to rewrite it. I'm just finishing up a documentary. Actually, after this, I'm going to finish editing after we're done with this interview. So it's called VIP Chauffeur, and it's based on my autobiography. And I got a bunch of other stuff in the works too. We'll touch that toward the end because I know Mel had some questions about the movie stuff that he wanted to bring up. But
Yeah, of course.
but definitely, my passion has always been to be in the movie industry. That's how I got in the movie Casino. I got my Screen Actors Guild card. It's still active. I write. All I did was write while I was in prison. Write story after story after story after story. And did you want to continue on this topic, or did you want to go
Yeah,
back
well,
to?
let me give a shout out to the Mailroom Nation. Let's go. Hood, set, click. Let's go. We got Raymond Torres right here, you guys. Very good guy. I did time with him. We both were part of the Choices program because we both feel that all spaces are filled, whether positive or negative. You get to make the choice which one you want to be in. Ray, so back to the movie stuff, man. So how is that going? Because I remember you was writing when we was both in Unicore, and
Yeah,
you started script writing over there, man.
yeah, man. That's why I got in Unicorn, because I knew they had typewriters. So I'm like, man, that's why I got a desk job. So
And you was quality control at that
I,
time,
I
right?
was, so quality control could do basically, we kind of do whatever we want. We just mingle
Right,
around,
right.
and so yeah,
Floating, yeah, because
I,
I was in the office over at the warehouse. I was in that part of the business office in the warehouse,
right,
and you was actually going around measuring things, and you knew
right.
your math really well.
Right. Yeah, I was quality control. I mean, I mean, it was a pretty easy, fun job. I mean, it wasn't, if you had to have a job, a, a prison, Unicorns like being living in Wilmington, you want to be a longshoreman. Same thing.
Yes,
It's like
yes,
you want that job. You know what I'm saying? That's
yes.
where you want to be if you got to be in prison. And then to be if you're a clerk or a quality control, then you kind of get, there's no benefits of that. There's a, I so it wasn't too bad. I actually was in the apprenticeship program too. So I was in the quality
Which
control
one?
apprenticeship, the quality
Oh
control one.
yeah, right.
So yeah, I was in that program, and I got all my hours and everything registered with the Department of Labor, and so I was preparing for the streets. So I figured, hey, if I had to work, I might as well get credit for it and paid. So you know what I'm saying. So,
Absolutely, absolutely.
but going back to the movies and the scripts, I'll let you, if you want to touch base on some questions, or just let me know.
Yeah. So how was that going, man? Because like I say, man, I saw you write them. So were any of your scripts been picked up, or they have you actually been able to perfect a movie out of any of your scripts?
So I had so many projects that I was writing when I was there, but I had one of my biggest projects was called The Cartel King. It's because I love mafia movies. Who doesn't? And I happen
Yeah,
to
because
know.
you should act out the parts in Unicore. I remember we said you had the voices down and everything. I remember,
Hey,
right?
man, I went to the shoe one day, right? And they had me under
Uh huh.
investigation for the shoe. I don't know if you remember. I got.
Yeah.
Oh, I was playing basketball. You know what I'm saying? There was a guy, and there was a little incident. But anyways, I was in the shoe under investigation, and they asked me if I need anything. They said, "Yeah, can you send me my movie scripts?" So I got all my scripts. So I'm in the cell by myself. I'm over acting out characters, and the guards are coming by like, "What the hell's wrong with this guy? Lost his mind or what?" Like the flashlight checking out, and
They
I'm
was
over
gonna
here
put
like,
you on site status.
man, they were about to put the straight jacket on me. I think Torres is losing his mind. We need to get him out of here. Figure out what we're gonna do with him. So I would do that. I'm like, you know what? Let me practice these characters in here. So I would become each character, right, that I wrote, and I would just try to get in their mindset because I was by myself. I didn't have no distractions, and of course, I was part of the drama team. I put the drama team together for Terminal Island. Do you remember
Uh-huh.
that? Do you
Yep.
remember the drama for the plays and everything for the chaplain?
Everything, right?
Yeah. So the
Everything, man.
chaplain. So the chaplain called
I
me
can't
into on
remember the
that.
big chaplain name. Remember the big chaplain? I think he was kind of gay, but he was a good guy.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I think he was a little fruity, wasn't he? He did look a little
Yeah.
fruity, a little
Yeah.
softy. But
Yeah.
movie making has always been my passion since a kid. So I took advantage being in prison. I started writing movie scripts and stories, and I even interviewed cartel members in prison about some of the stories. And actually, some of the stuff that I wrote was based on real events. So,
There go
and
a
some of the
question from Big Devil. I don't know if you can see it.
who or what inspired you to start writing? I think my biggest inspiration for movies when I first saw Star Wars. Star Wars, when as a kid in the '70s, and I seen Star Wars. That was my first, the first like the seed that was planted. And then once you know, and then I think it changed to mafia once I started running the streets and and gang banging and getting involved in drug trafficking. So I don't know, something happened there during that time, but I've been, Star Wars, and then you see movies like Goodfellas, and then you see Scarface, and then Denzel Washington's Man on Fire. Of course, that was
Uh-huh.
after the fact, but I mean, there's so many great movies. The Godfather. I mean, they're just when you look at them, and you look at the storytelling and all that. It just, to me, it's like, man, it was just and honestly, I think that was instilled in me since I was a kid, because as far as I could remember, I remember telling my parents I wanted to be in the movies. I don't know where it came from. There's nobody in my family that's in the movies. So sometimes I think either God puts that desire in your heart, or because that's the only explanation I have. There is nobody in my family that's in the movie industry. So
Awesome, man.
it just something that's always been burning inside of me like a passion. So
Awesome, awesome.
yeah, so going back to the writing and all that, today, this happened recently. So I've been writing for years. Of course, I've been preparing and praying, and of course, you submit your work to here, and you submit it there, and you get promises this, and nothing's ever promised until you see that movie on the big screen.
Uh-huh.
But this
Exactly.
happened. This happened recently. So I drove a client. Usually, I do a profile check when I have a VIP, and I try to see what I try to look at the type of water they drink, the type of gum they chew, the temperature, and I try to learn as much as I can about a VIP, so I can know them, the type of music that
That's
they listen to.
great customer
So,
service right there,
so
my
I mean,
brother.
and I try to the food they eat, the restaurant. So I didn't do that with this lady because it was a last minute. I got a phone call. Ray, I got a VIP that's coming in. I I need you ASAP for 3 days. I'm like, okay. So I pick her up. She says she's a super VIP. Well, everybody's a super VIP that comes to Vegas. You know what I'm saying? Maybe super
Mm.
VIPs we get. I'm like, okay. So I didn't do the profile check on her. So I take her to the iHeart Music Festival with her young son. Her son must have been about maybe 11 years old, 10, 11 years old. And of course, I'm doing my job, professional, whatever, taking her whatever she needs to take. So she makes a phone call, and she's on the phone, and she's talking about movies, but the way she's talking, like she's in control of whatever's going on. So I'm like, so she catches my attention, right? And I'm like, I says, so after we start talking, break the ice a little bit. So I asked her, I says, you know what? Do you mind if I ask you a question? She's like, no, go ahead. I go, what type of work do you do? And she looked at me like, you don't know who I am? And I apologized. I said, I'm sorry. Usually I do a profile check. I don't know who you are, honestly. I don't. I told her I apologize. She goes, well, I'm an executive at. It's a major. I'm not gonna say the studio, but it's a major studio, one of
Hmm.
the biggest. And she goes, I'm an executive, but I'm also chairwoman on the board.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I'm like this. I said, okay. I'm thinking in my mind, okay, now I got to play this straight. This is a game of chess right now. I said, so I tell her, how many chauffeurs have pitched you movie ideas? And she started laughing. She goes, she's like, oh, quite a few. I said, well, I'm not going to do that to you. I says, but I am a writer, and I've been writing for years, and filmmaking is my passion. So the next question I asked her, I says, does the name of the company that she's with, I go, do they have a writer's program? And she looked at me like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. She goes, yes, they do. She goes, I'm going to put you in contact with my assistant and everybody that's involved in that writer's program. I go, but I was already in contact with her assistant through text message. She goes, so I'm going to let her know that all your work, and I told her I had work already written. All the work that you submit, I'm going to flag it saying it came from me, she said. I was like, really? You going to do that? And so right now I'm on a group email with the person in charge of the writers program, the person that's in charge of creative development, talent. We're all on this, and actually I have a meeting, a Skype meeting like we're doing here, on Monday the 13th. So
Awesome, Ray.
keep me in prayer. I pray this is it. Let's see. I
I
mean,
got you, man.
it doesn't get any bigger than this lady. Put it that way. I know people that know her after the fact. They says, bro, for you to even get a meeting with her would take an act of God. Anybody from the outside, it just doesn't happen with her. I'm like,
Okay.
really? So that's how big she is.
Awesome,
So
Ray.
if I told you her name, you can look it up, but I'm not gonna do
Immediately, yeah.
that.
Okay.
But I'm not gonna do
Okay,
that.
Ray. So listen, Ray, it's been
Yeah.
really good, man. I appreciate you coming, spend your time. You've been here over an hour, so I don't want to keep you tied up, but I will like to have you back in the future and let us know your progress, man. And we appreciate you. So give out your social media for people that want to tap in with you or follow you or whatever. Can you give up a social media?
Yeah, absolutely. If they want to follow me on Facebook or Instagram, it's Raymond Raymond Torres Torres LV for Las Vegas, and you can pull me up. You can see a picture of a dude looking like a chauffeur in a three-piece suit. That's most likely that's me. So or you can Google Raymond Torres the chauffeur and purchase my book. And the book that I wrote also partial proceeds go back to the Real Talk Youth Impact Program. So whatever you guys buy, the some of the money goes back into it. So
Salute to Raymond Torres. We
all
appreciate you
right,
coming in the Mailroom Nation. Shout
thank,
out to Raymond Torres, and hopefully we be tapping in back in with you soon, man. Until then, peace, brother.
thanks for having me, Mel. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, bro.
All right.
Shout out to the Mailroom Nation, man. You guys have been, you guys are always the best guests. I mean, you guys come in and support. I appreciate that. Marlena Williams, G. Foster, Michelle, Destiny, Gregory Dudley, Big Devil, Mike Marks, Aldridge, man, and Yahshua Muhammad. What's going on? What's going on? Shout out to the Mailroom Nation. Hood, click, set. Let's go. Anybody got any questions for me, man? I think that was a great interview. I think that Ray brought a side to the interview experience that I hadn't dealt with, but at the same time, I was really eager to do it because I knew that he was very, very, very well read and he was informative and he just, he took it somewhere that, you know what I mean? Because we can't get boxed in on this stuff. Let's see. Melly Mill need a C-Day, whatever, a C-Day shout out December 20. Right on, Mike Morris. Got you. Man, before I get, man, shout out to my boy Eagle, man. Eagle, YG Eagle from the Nellas, man. You know what I mean? I've been running into him quite often here in Moreno Valley, and he recognized me right off, man. So shout out to him, man. What's going on, VIP Studios? What's going on, OG Steve? Shout out to the Mailroom Goons, the Mailroom Nation. Marlena Williams, where are you? Cynthia Nunn. Are you guys still in the chat? How's you guys Monday going, man? Any questions before we get up out of here? How did you guys like that? How did you guys like that interview? It was a little different, right? We had a real live, great interview. And we are out. Yeah, it was yeah. Right on, Craig. Right on, Craig. I appreciate you, bro. I appreciate you, man. Yeah, it was very different. I think he added something to the interview that we don't get from a lot of interviews. You know what I mean? Because the guy, when I tell you he was Wemas, man, you know what I mean. That's a huge gang over West Side Wemas in the harbor area. He was one of those guys over there. You know what I mean? Can't take it from nothing from it. Was it hard for you to transition from hustling in the feds and trying to change the narrative once you got out? Yeah, yeah, it was definitely quite an adjustment. You know what I mean? But you know what, Mike? I've always kept a job. Always, no matter. I don't care how much money I was getting because I went to work with the regular guys and went to bed with the regular. You know what I mean? When I was even moving that weight, man, I was moving when people was going to work. you know, and I wasn't moving after 10 for nobody, for no way. You know what I mean? What up, Johnny? So yeah, I kept myself, man, out of the frying pan, man. You gotta know, man. Um, that stuff, man. Once the feds get a hold of you, man, really, it's like really done, man. There's no need in even to continue along that path because at that point, whatever you was doing become non and void. I need to interview more Chicanos. I would love that, Destiny. I would definitely love that because I think they add a level of the history that's missing because this thing is a puzzle, right? And we don't have all the pieces, you know what I mean? Because they're in the same communities, they're experiencing the same things we experience. So yeah, I would love that. I would love that. I got a homeboy. I gotta go see I look him up. His name is Weddle. Now if I get Weddle on here, oh man, you guys would love Weddle because Weddle is just off the chain with it. He off the chain. Yeah, that would be a definitely. So I gotta look up and see can I get a hold of Weddle. I know he would do it for me. And I'm gonna have my guy. He's out of New Jersey. I call him my son. He called me dad, but he's a Puerto Rican. I'm gonna have him on here soon too, and we're gonna chop it up about some things. You know what I mean? So I think that's gonna be great. Oh, your uncle needs to hear this, right? He's in the feds. How long he's been in there? Interesting, right on, Craig Moore. I mean, I mean, I'm not the boxed in type of person. I don't want to be boxed in. I don't want to be labeled or leveraged as one dimensional type person. You know what I mean? So again, man, shout out to the Mailroom Nation. Hood, set, click, let's go. That's how we doing it, man. Professor Melly Mail, the Hood Postman. You know that vibe. Be sure to click the notification bell, like, subscribe, and share. Press that thumbs up. Press, 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 press. So when the dope content hit, you'll feel like it's the first and the 15th, man. Shout out, man. So once again, we are out. We are gone. We are gone. Let me see. Let me get this last question. My uncle reason they changed the $100 bill from green to blue ways. He was being watched from 2007. What's your uncle name, man? Because I was in the feds with a guy named Al Talton. Al was like really good at making that paper, making his own money, man. He made his own money for real. That guy bought Ferraris, Aston Martins, houses, and everything from making his own money, man. Let me see what he says. I think we had a good time tonight. We'll be back Wednesday. Was it Wisdom Wednesday? We're gonna start doing more. I'm gonna start doing more, lives and interviews. I got to step it up, man. You know what I mean? Get my subscriptions up. You know what I mean? I want to get up over 10,000. I know Al Talton. He used to gamble at Hollywood Park. Yeah, 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 yeah. Al was something, man. Al Thornton. Okay, right on, right on, right on. Well, anyway, man, we are out. We are out. Mel, send me your number. Okay, I will do that, Mike. Mike, I don't remember what's your name on there, man. You got to tell me what's your name on Instagram. He was almost pardoned by Trump. You got to tell me your name on Instagram again, because man, trust me, bro. I get so many messages and so many people coming in, so I don't. Okay, got it, got it. Sacrilegious. Right out. Well, once again, Professor Mail, shout out to the Mailroom Nation, shout out to the Mailroom Goons, and we are out.